He was the most feared soldier who lived by brotherly code.
It's for your own good.
But his own friends brutally murdered his wife. They were so blinded by power that they didn't stop there, and once again attack his house to kill his guest. But this time he retaliated back like a gladiator and bestowed them most gruesome deaths. Welcome back to Paramount Recapped. I don't have many subscribers, but your single comment is a ray of hope to motivate me. The story kicks off in a city that's totally under military control. Then disaster strikes. A nasty virus spreads, and a lot of people decide they need to bail and head to another city. But the soldiers aren't having it. They order everyone to stay put. I mean, can you blame them? What kind of party would it be if everyone just left? Anyone who doesn't comply? They're headed straight to isolation camps. It's like being sent to timeout, but for adults. Next, we meet Commander Stone, who's being pretty brutal with the wife of one of his soldiers who's not following orders. This soldier, named John, is secretly helping people escape from those camps. Stone threatens to take out John's wife, Susan, if he doesn't spill where the escapees are hiding. John stands firm, so Stone goes ahead and kills Susan right in front of him. Talk about a toxic work environment. Fast forward 3 years, and John's still haunted by the loss of his wife. While he's in hiding, he's training himself in self-defense because he wants revenge. Who needs therapy when you can just practice karate in the woods, right? We learned that John used to be part of a special forces unit under Stone's command. That unit has a dark history. They've wiped out tons of people just because they were thought to be infected with the virus. It's like a really extreme version of don't judge a book by its cover. The truth is, the virus was just a cover for Stone's shady dealings. The residents became collateral damage in his greed. Classic case of oops, my bad. Despite everything, John has a conscience and disapproves of the horrible things his superiors did, which gets him labeled a traitor. Talk about being the black sheep of the family. Turns out, John is immune to the virus, so the medical team wanted to use his blood to create a vaccine. But he wasn't having it and fought back, ultimately escaping the camp. Now he's hiding out in the woods, still tormented by his wife's death and the guilt of taking so many innocent lives. No wonder he's got trust issues. I promise I'm not a bad guy, but my resume says otherwise. While he's lost in thought about his past, John is caught off guard by a wounded woman who shows up. He quickly brings her into his cabin. The next morning, she wakes up and he learns her name is Maria. John finds a bullet stuck in her, one fired by the military when she tried to make a run for it. He helps her get it out, only to discover it's not just a bullet, it's a tracking device. Wow, talk about an unwanted souvenir, he must have thought. After the bullet is out, Maria passes out, and John realizes that she's being hunted by the special forces. He notices a special barcode on her wrist. At this point, John must be thinking, great, now I have a house guest who's literally got a target on her back. When Maria wakes up, John tells her she can crash at his place for a bit, but she'll have to leave as soon as she's better. He doesn't want to get caught since he's also on the run from the special forces. It's like having a roommate who's a little too into extreme sports. Danger everywhere. A couple of days later, some special forces guys show up at his hut, looking for Maria because their GPS led them to him. John plays it cool and acts like he doesn't know anything. Me? No way. I'm just here for the scenic view. They try to search his hut, but he manages to take them out, and Maria even takes down one of them herself. She's like, I've got this, you just focus on your Netflix binge. Maria senses there's something different about John and is curious to know more, but John keeps his past under wraps. Word of the deaths of the Special Forces members gets back to their higher-ups, Roy and Lucy. They're set to report this to Commander Stone, the same guy who killed John's wife. Talk about a small world, huh? Meanwhile, John is busy fortifying his hiding spot, convinced that more Special Forces members will come after him. Later that evening, Maria opens up to John, explaining why the military is after her. Like John, her DNA is immune to the virus, and they want to use her too. But Maria doesn't want to give up her DNA, since she knows the military will only distribute the vaccine to a select few, leaving the poor, infected citizens out of luck. She realizes she was brought together with John for a reason, even though he had to endure the loss of his wife. Maria shares that she used to be a thief and ended up in prison, but when the virus hit, it wiped out most of the inmates and guards. Luckily, she survived because of her immunity. Now that's a Prison Break story no one saw coming. I went in for petty theft and came out as survivor. The next day, John starts showing Maria the ropes on how to handle weapons and defend herself. Not long after that, 3 guys from the Special Forces show up in the woods. John picks up on their approach, so he sneaks into his hut to draw them in. As they get closer, he quickly takes them out with his gun. But then, one of the soldiers grabs Maria and orders John to show himself. John fires at the soldier from inside the hut, and then he steps out to finish the job. Since their 3 buddies haven't come back yet, the higher-ups decide to send more troops to capture Maria. They have no clue that John, a former member of their own Special Forces and a skilled fighter, is the one helping her. Meanwhile, John and Maria are gearing up for the next group to show up. He pulls out a weapon he hasn't used in ages and asks Maria to fetch some water from a nearby lake. But out of nowhere, she finds herself surrounded by the Special Forces members who just arrived. Thinking they've got their target, Roy, one of the commanders, quickly informs Stone, their main boss. Before he can finish, John bursts in and starts shooting at them again, saving Maria once more. Unfortunately, Roy survives and alerts Stone about what just happened, asking for reinforcements. Commander Stone orders his men to capture Maria alive instead of killing her. More troops roll in, and even though Maria gets caught, she fights back and manages to take down some of the Special Forces members. Word about his guys getting killed reaches Stone, and he realizes he needs to switch things up. He plans to lure John into a trap in the tunnel nearby. While John is out scouting the forest, he bumps into Roy, an old friend of his, and they end up fighting. Roy isn't a pushover, and John struggles to keep up, getting knocked down several times. At the same time, Maria is taken captive again. John isn't really out for the count, though. He gets back up, determined to find Maria. Meanwhile, Roy drags Maria to the tunnel with the rest of the troops. John overhears Stone's orders through the comms of the dead soldiers, telling everyone to gather in the tunnel. Without thinking, John heads right for it, completely unaware it's a trap. Once inside, he faces off against Roy again, while Stone and his men wait at the tunnel's exit. John has a tough time with Roy's fighting style, but he hangs in there until he finally gets the upper hand and takes Roy out. Just when John thinks he's got a moment, he rushes to grab Maria, but the troops block all exits. They have no choice but to stand their ground and fight. Another shootout erupts, and John and Maria manage to take down the Special Forces again. But just when they think it's over, more troops come in. To escape, John tosses some smoke grenades to cover their retreat. He gets shot by Lucy during the chaos, but pushes on with Maria, leading her into a safe room and telling her to stay put while he lures the troops out. Unfortunately, Stone and his men are waiting for him right at the tunnel's end. John has no option left but to give up. Finally, he comes face to face with the man who killed his wife. Stone starts to put the pieces together about why capturing Maria has been so tricky because of John's help. He demands to know where Maria is, but John refuses to talk, even under torture. Frustrated, John challenges Stone to a one-on-one fight, and Stone eagerly agrees. In the end, John takes down Stone right in front of his men. Stone, desperate, tries to grab a weapon from his troops, but they're sick of his cruelty and refuse to help. Eventually, he forcibly takes one from a soldier, but ends up getting shot with it. At that moment, Maria steps out with 2 grenades, threatening to blow herself up unless Lucy lets John go. Lucy agrees to her terms, and Maria is taken to headquarters, leaving John behind in the forest. Earlier, John had secretly given Maria a blood sample for them to use to create a vaccine. In the end, they successfully make a vaccine from John and Maria's blood, allowing the citizens to live peacefully in the city.